You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
Welcome to episode 115 of A Life in Ruins podcast, where we investigate the careers of those living a life in ruins. Our lives are ruined. It's David, it's Connor, and Carlton will not be here with us today.
Vinny's here though. Oh. Hey yo, how you doing?
Vinny is not here. It's just
Vinny's
us.
not here. Vinny the Chin, guys. Follow him. Spaghetti Westerns with a Z.
Yeah. Definitely go check him out. Carlton will be back one day. I think he sent me a picture of him after the tornado that he went through, and he used the popular thing from Twister where you put your belt, you tie it to a water line, and he survived the tornado. So he's good to go.
That's good. He didn't send me that picture.
No, I mean, the field school students didn't make it, but, you know, he made it. So
That's good. That's good. Yeah, we have a lot of group chats, and I can't keep up with a lot of them. Anyway.
Well, for context, everyone pretty much have an episode with. We end up in a group chat.
Yeah.
That devolves into something like...
Except for the 107 that we haven't.
We tried. We tried at the beginning. We tried like every single one. It was like, we tried to get a group chat going, and then they mostly just ghosted us because we're weird.
Yeah, Worldwide Wallace. Trevor just ghosted us, dude. Left us on... Well, he did send us a meme a while back, and we kind of ghosted him.
Yeah, but it was like in response, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It was SpongeBob with the butterfly net in his hand, or the jellyfish net with his tongue sticking way out. And it said archaeologists when they find pottery. And it was very funny. For context, that joke, this is a popular like freak out and undergrad kind of thing, is like the way to tell if it's a ceramic versus a lithic when you have a pile of shit on your plate. Sorry, Chris, hang on. The way to tell if it's a ceramic or a lithic when you have a pile of stuff on your plate, like on your tray, is to lick it, because ceramics are porous, so therefore it will stick to your tongue. Bone as well. I'm sorry, bone versus ceramics. There you go. Bone is porous. I already take my degree away. Anyway, point of the story is...
I think a ceramic would stick, though. Let's be honest.
I believe I confused that because the stuff that I licked that I can't mention the name of because of DOD purposes, when I licked it, my tongue didn't stick to it. That's what it is. Yes, bone sticks to your tongue. So at a field school, everyone's like, yeah, just check. And like, they're like, what? And like, I will always just immediately lick bone, like freshly dead or 2,000 years dead.
Yeah. 5
minutes ago, 5,000 years ago, who knows?
Yeah, whatever it is. My dog chewed on it. You know, it doesn't matter. But I told my friend that, and he like was appalled. He's like, you stick your tongue on a bone that has been in dirt with nasty whatever, and he's just like, yeah, we just do that. It's totally fine. He's like, why? you guys are a bunch of weird people.
And it could be like, not saying any specific projects or places that have worked, it could be a very NAGPRA heavy site, and like I'll lick a bone or two, and I'm like, you know what? High chance that was someone's grandmother's femur that I just licked a piece of. Probably could go to federal prison for that, but we don't know when it's a shard, and that's the point of curation.
Yeah, allegedly
right.
femur.
If I hadn't have licked it, the alleged femur, I wouldn't have known and it would have gotten filed away as a ceramic, and therefore not NAGPRA. So it is #lick for NAGPRA. Anyway, all right. God, we're off to a great start today.
We're just going to warn everyone, this is going to be chaos. It's been a chaotic week for all of us. Carlton's in the field. I am dealing with 6,000 crazy projects, and David is, trying to do some stuff with your bus. You want to inform the folks who've made it this far what you're doing with your bus?
Yeah, so when you have diet autism like I do, it's really hard it's really hard to function. So like I think we talked about this. I was in the process of building my own bus. However, I found the new bus that was already converted to the way I wanted it. So I'm selling that's a whole other thing. I got a new bus, and in the new bus, like had I finished building the old one or bought the new one, I would have needed to figure out the electrical anyway. However, since the guy built it, he was like, yeah, here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. Here's how you do this. This is what this is. And I recorded a video of him explaining all that to me. But of course, I had no idea. And I'm like, cool, I'll just exist. And I like finally moved into the bus fully. And like my desktop computer. I'm like, man, no one really fits a desktop computer into their bus. Like, I'm going to be one of the first people to do that. And I did it. And then I realized when you have your desktop computer that can like process 4K video and run like Skyrim and Adobe Premiere at the same time, it drains your batteries out real quick in pure sun. So I was like, oh, shoot.
And it runs off solar, like it's not attached to the engine or anything like that. It's purely powered by the sun. Purely
self-sustaining solar. Like it's eco-friendly as hell. But yeah, so, and I have 200 amp hours of battery. So like that should theoretically like last forever with just the fridge and the lights. Like I don't have to worry about it unless I had no sun for like 2 weeks. But that thing draws. So like when I plug in my air fryer, which are notoriously like power efficient, that's like why they exist, should be okay. But like a Keurig, I've heard those take out a lot of power. So anyway, it's just little things. So I bought a little watt tester to like see how much stuff things take. And like I can do some editing on my computer on a thing, but like I'm not going to be able to like because there's that one guy who's like van life gaming and like he's so annoying, but he does have some good stuff.
Wait, really? There's a van life gamer?
Yeah, he's this Gen Z looking dude. He's probably my age though. He's got long hair and a cross earring. If you have a cross earring that dangles, I assume you're Gen Z. The fit print, the fine print is his name. It's like TTTH, like TT the fine print TT at the end of it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, van life gaming, and it's cool. He has a solar system. He has like 600 amp hours of battery, so he could just sustainably game anywhere he goes, which is pretty cool. And he also does video editing, so I think that's like that's his day job. And that's all these people are like, oh, how do you afford van life? Like, how do you know you can just do your job on the road? He has a full-time like job doing like visual effects for like Disney.
Oh,
yeah. He doesn't mention that until like one video. And I was like, oh, that's how this kid does it. But now he's probably got sponsorships and like all that. So,
and he has, but the only way he does it is he has like 3 times as much amp hours as you, right?
Yeah. Like he has probably $2,000 to $3,000 worth of batteries in his bus or in his van. I have about 1,500, I think. I didn't buy them, but I assume that's the amount those batteries cost. But anyway, to answer your question, it's been a lot. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I should add a DC to DC inverter, which then I have to like run from my batteries in the engine all the way to the back of the bus at the solar. But the bus is already built, so I can't strip everything out. So I've been going underneath the bus, drilling holes, like running wires and stuff. I also, in the back of the bus, there's a big rear heater. So like if it was a school bus, there's a heater that you flip on the little console up front that turns on the heat. However, that also heats the floor. So everything back there was just roasting hot when I drove to Arkansas. And I was like, oh my God, that's not good. Like,
dude, I burned my calves on those things so many times.
As a kid?
As a kid, like on the bus, you'd like put your leg back there and you'd be like just like searing pain.
Oh, I never did that. I didn't get to sit in the back of the bus.
Well, yeah, because you weren't cool. Because you're short and Jewish.
This is true. I think by the time I was like old enough to be in the back of the bus, like we moved to Tennessee, and then I was like a new kid, so I had to sit up front with this Japanese exchange student. All right, her name was Sasuke. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point being,
also that was a joke about David's height and ethnicity. We're just joking.
It's all good. They know. The government knows this is my 23andMe. The Chinese know. That's good.
Yeah, that data has been sold to someone.
The Japanese are cool with it. Sasuke is cool with it, but you know. The point of all this, and Chris and his wife Rachel live in an RV full time, so they're probably laughing their asses off at me right now, trying to like just like, oh, poor David. But yeah, so I'm like ring up, but there's not the heater. The heater like burned like and my propane's back there, and I know propane is like pretty safe, like. Even if you shoot it with a gun, it won't like blow up in fire. I've saw that on Mythbusters. However, it's a volume of gas that's just in my bus. So I'm constantly like, if I get rear-ended, I'm dead. And like some days I welcome that, some days I don't. So like, I'm just like, oh God. And like, if my floor is so hot, I'm like, it's going to explode. Like my dog is going to die in like a fiery inferno while he's locked in the bus. I'm like, so I have to take this heater out. And then like, to take the heater out, everyone's like, oh, there's just a little valve in your engine that you can just turn that turns that like the coolant doesn't go to it, so it doesn't turn on. And then like 3 people on the bus life stuff were like, yeah, just do that. And I was like, okay, but like, have you ever opened up a diesel engine and not known a thing about it? What valve? And then I called like Ford, and Ford was like, well, it's a Collins bus. You got to call Collins. And I called Collins, and the lady was like, yeah, just like go down here, open up this. It's under this flap, and then hit the tooth, like the flux capacitor, and turn it this way. And I was like, okay, yeah, not doing that. So I just cut the lines. And it like, it's an actual solution. It's like the nuclear option to take it out. You just cut, like there's a flow line that goes into it to bring coolant and a, like power, and then one that comes out and brings the coolant. So I just cut those and then got 2 fittings and rerouted them. So it just like, rather than going up to the heater, that stuff just goes around in a hose to the back of the bus.
It just ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody listening knows how to like turn that off on a specific 2010 40 450 Collins bus, do let me know. But the next time I get it serviced, I'm going to ask them to do it. But for now, it's fine. It just runs back, and most people do it that way because it's just the surefire way to not have to worry about it. And I ripped that thing out. I've been doing so many mechanical and electrical things and plumbing things that I've never like thought I'd ever have to do, which I do see as a thing when people, they're like, bus life, hell yeah. That's like what they do. And I'm always impressed with like this one little like 19-year-old girl who like lives in a van full time, just like with a drill, like doing shit that I have no idea what she's doing.
See, and I wasn't like ever taught that as like a kid growing up. So I never got like, you know, my dad never walked me through this part of the engine is this does that, you know, or you do the oil change here or whatever. And I wasn't really interested in it either. So it's like,
no, because we had computers.
Yeah. And LimeWire.
And LimeWire. But like, you could probably like, your dad's probably like, how do I change my RAM? And you could explain all about RAM and like what bays it goes into and how, but my dad be like, that makes sense. But he doesn't like know it. Whereas a car, he's like, yeah, just like turn that. And I'm like, what? How do you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, I just, that's something I feel like I missed out on. You know, I can't like, I could probably change my oil by myself. Like that's not a big thing, but like that was like service industry kind of stuff. But I, like you said, I can tell you anything about tech, whatever. My parents can't, like their power went out the other day and it turned off their like Nest cameras, and they're like, oh my God, I just can't get it back on. No matter what I do, I plugged it back in, I did everything. And I just like searched one thing online and then figured it out. It took me like 10 seconds.
Dude, I know what you mean, dude. My mom she got a new phone from work, and I was like, here we go. There's a new iPhone. She doesn't have iCloud backup. She doesn't have anything. And like, she doesn't have enough storage in the phone to back it up to iCloud. So she's like, do I just charge do I have to pay it to my work credit card? Like, they're not going to approve that. And I'm like, oh my God, if they want you to switch to a new phone, they'll approve it. And then I have to like back up all her stuff to iCloud. And then of course her contacts don't sync over to the new phone. She's like, I'm just going to take it to Apple. And I was like, I swear to God, if you take it to Apple, the guy's going to put a gun to his head and say, I hate my job, because he gets this 6 times a day from people that are older than you, Mom. Just Google it.
Well, they don't remember their passwords or anything like that.
No, like,
they're like, oh, I have to sign back in. I can't just use the Face ID. It's like, no, it's a brand new phone.
If anybody listening works at Geek Squad or at the Apple Genius Bar, you are a soldier of God. Like the stuff. I saw this guy go through Geek Squad, dude, at Best Buy, and I was just trying to get my phone repaired. Like the only place I could do it was Best Buy that day. And he was like, okay, so do I buy, like, if I buy this $200 Norton Secure, like, you'll install it for me? And he's like, I could, but like, you don't really need that. Windows Defender does it just fine. And he's like, but like, I have to have security. And he's like, yeah, but like, you don't have to have, you could just do Windows Defender. Like, it's really good. And he's like, but like, why would they sell this for this much money if it doesn't? Like, he's like, capitalism. Like, I just want you to buy the thing. And I had to sit there for 45 minutes and like watch this poor patient Hispanic man in, like, he spoke like perfect English, but I could tell like this has nothing relevance to it, but I could just tell like he was calculating in his head the words to say without just like chewing this guy out. And he was just like, you don't need it. And like, after the guy left, and he was like defeated, and he's like, that I feel like he felt like the guy was like trying to ruin his computer or something like that. And the customer left, and I locked it up to the dude, and he was like, I'm so sorry for your wait, man. And I was like, dude, you have the patience of a saint. And he was like, every day, man. I was just like, oh my God.
I feel like if I worked like a week at doing that, and I kind of do that as part of my job, and I do it like just enough that I can keep my patience. But if I had to do that for a full week, like I would hop on a plane, buy a one-way ticket to the middle of Canada, and do logging, where I never saw another piece of technology ever again. Like I would Dexter it. I would go like hang out in the middle of nowhere, ruin the end of my series, and then end up in the Canada being a logger, because it's awful. Like trying to explain something to folks who do not understand stuff. Like, it's got to be painful, but it's also going to be painful, like, for mechanics every time I go in there and be like, hey, the thing doesn't work.
My car's smoking. They're like, well, yeah, you haven't changed your oil in 6 years. It's going to be smoking, dude.
60,000 miles per oil change? I can't remember.
Dude, it just spits out parts on the highway. To bring this back archaeologically, though, like, I went on a rant about the bus, and like we just talked about technology, but like it's interesting to me, like in this bus, like I will now be like a mobile person, like a hunter-gatherer. I have to go to places where there's sun. I need to go somewhere where I know there is water, that I can fill up my tank and get the dog water. I don't care if I'm near a grocery store or whatever, but it's just like I literally have to calculate things like that based on like how much amp hours of battery I have left.
Well, and how much gas you have, if you can make it to the gas station.
Gas station, especially right now. Yeah. And like, but people at Geek Squad too, like they're like, it's literally dealing with an Achillean hand axe versus like a Clovis point. And they're just like, someone's like, but this one works just fine. And he's like, no, but like, you don't need an Achillean hand axe sized tool when you could just use a flake to cut open your box. You know what I mean? Like the Amazon box. And like they deal with that. So there's probably people in prehistory or let's just say the Stone Age that were like dealing with this stuff. And they were like, no, Mom, I swear to God, like Neanderthals, you don't have to make all these exterior flakes to get to the one in the middle. Like you could literally just bifacially work this thing down to a usable tool and not waste so much flint.
And he's like, Mom and Grandpa are like, no.
I need to buy an extended warranty. I'm on the Valwa point, boy.
They just called me about it. The Nigerian princes, the Nigerian Neanderthals want something.
Oh, dude, speaking of Nigerian princes, I got someone messaged me saying like they were perusing my art and they wanted to like buy it for their husband, who it's his anniversary. She doesn't want him to see it, so she wants to send me a check in all caps for the art. And I was like, oh, here we go. And I went with it because I wanted them to send me the fake check that's clearly going to bounce and expect me to send the art back. And I was like, man, these people really want my art for like, why mine? And then I wanted them to give me their address because I was literally going to mail them a box of Strider's dog shit. And like, let's not bleep that out because it's what I would have sent. But they want me to like meet with a person in a parking lot and do an exchange where we sign for it and stuff. And like, I think it's either going to be a robbery or somebody really wants my art that bad that I messaged and said like, hey, you're bad at this. Don't capitalize check next time. And also, if you want it that bad, you can just have it. And they just didn't respond. All right, we'll call it next segment.
And we will be back.
Welcome back to episode 115. 115 of a Life in the Rooms podcast. I'm here with Connor John, and Carlton is not joining us today. So sad. Who do you think was the first person to invent that?
Some guy on the street.
Like a street performer in like London?
Yeah, he's probably like following around like, larger people or someone getting rejected and it's just like
whoever, like the first person to do it definitely got a laugh.
Yeah.
Like somebody was like, that's fucking funny, mate.
Oh.
Do that again.
Cheeky.
Sorry for the English audience. But I mean, you deserve it. So,
America.
Yes, right, boy.
How about that revolution of 1776? How'd that taste?
You should listen to our episode, son. That's accurate.
Yeah, it's the most accurate, most factual since Donald Trump's something on something.
Just X or Y. It's an ad lib there. Mad lib.
Mad lib.
Dude, did you see the thing about him throwing the plate of ketchup against the wall? The hearing, it's just like, and like, I'm like, this isn't real. And then like you hear it and you're like, okay, that's real. He threw his he would frequently pull the tablecloth out from under the as like a cartoonish evil boss. Anyway,
it would have been better if you tried to do like a magic trick. Where he's
Abracadabra.
I'm gonna pull this whole tablecloth from underneath you. I don't know why it was like a terrible New York accent, but that's Donald Trump.
It's what it is. Yes. So right now it is the summer. I'm about to go into the field for 2 weeks at the Laprelle Mammoth Site, the National Geographic funded Laprelle Mammoth Site. What's good?
No big deal. Todd Sarah, Dr. Maddie Mackey,
Dr. Spencer Pelton. Just some cool people. Yeah, but I'm doing that. That's a fun dig. I'm not running it. I'm going to just hang out. I'm not getting paid to dig. I'll be making content and stuff, but like that's fun. There's CRM stuff, which I'll be doing later this summer. Connor, you are working CRM currently, but there are people out there who are working CRM currently doing like the work.
Yeah. Like
we could say.
Respect to all those people out there, who are really putting in the time, putting in the miles, putting in the hours,
putting in the meters.
Sorry, let's do this correctly. The kilometers, the feet, if you're doing a historic site.
Like shovel test, the meter deep.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but still, yeah.
This episode is going to be for you, but we're just going to talk about CRM and make you sad. Because we don't want to make you happy and let you enjoy like new research or like find out new things about archaeology. We want to remind you that you are sad and you are in a hole and that you're never going to get out of that hole.
And your crew chief is probably listening, and I'm going to say he's probably a dick. And you're like, wow. And now you're kind of looking back at your screen like you don't want to make eye contact because you agree. So you're just screening with your, and it's what it is. But also
send us the pictures of the crew chief, please. We want to see him.
Maybe there's someone on maybe it's a she, maybe it's a they, maybe someone on your crew is just the worst dramatic person you've ever encountered, and he or she or they are terrible to work with, and like now you're all kind of looking around like, because like you all know who that person is as I'm saying this, but you're not going to look at each other. Yeah, see, you're doing it right now. You're not going to look at the person because it's awkward, and I've made it worse for you. And
if you don't know that person, then it's you.
That's very true. Yeah, so careful on that one. But let me paint the picture for you guys here. Yes, I love the fact that it is federally protected public land in which when you find archaeological remains, you can dig up the past and preserve indigenous American heritage. I love that. I do. Do I love it so much that I would love to drive to the middle of the desert, step on a rattlesnake or two, working for a giant engineering company who gives no shit about me whatsoever, other than that my social security number is on there with a low pay salary. And, I don't have any criminal history. Do I love going out to the middle of that desert, digging a shovel test in the beating sun, carrying a screen 30 minutes across the field because you can't find any 2 tracks to get there with your truck, but then when you get there realize there's a 2 track right there where you could have taken the screens and shovels and all the paperwork to the spot? Do I love it? Do I love it when I dig that shovel test and it's negative and on the 3rd shovel test that's required you find 1 flake a meter deep, and then you have to dig 3 more shovel tests around that and still find nothing, and it was just that 1 flake to preserve indigenous heritage? Do I love that? I love that. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's why I'm doing that today in my parents' office on a nice cozy microphone in the air conditioning while my bus is roasting.
And that is why, exactly, I love it so much that I send people out there and do tech support from my beautiful, beautiful home in Washington, where it is like 60 degrees. It rained a little bit today. I got to walk outside. I am really struggling here because I need to be out on the field, on the ground, in those dunes, getting yelled at by engineering companies, getting yelled at by BLM archaeologists, getting yelled at whoever it is. I need to be out there, and I'm sad right now.
Are you sad?
I am so sad. Like
You
my
look-
cat's hanging out in the back there. Like I've got plants. I got a Coors Light. I didn't even sweat today because I'm just a big old piece of crap.
To be fair, there's Coors Light and a lot of CRM crews.
Depending on what state you're in.
Nothing I say here is legitimate. This will get environmental consultants. What? So the yeah. Sorry, were you done talking about what you loved? Because I definitely interrupted.
No, yeah. I miss it so much, and I know you miss it too. Being right there.
I do. I love.
You miss having. You don't want to have a pool in your backyard to go jump in.
No. I mean, I really don't want to stay at my parents' house any longer, but the diesel prices are pretty high. But I am leaving on Friday, so I'm finally good. I'm out. I'm done. Love my parents. Great place. I love Nashville. Why get an apartment while I'm here? While the bus, it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Do I miss living in a Hampton Inn in the middle of the reservation of Wyoming every night, getting those nice, delicious eggs that Hampton Inns provide? And like the little bit of stale cereal that comes out of that weirdly 1970s machine in which dispenses cereal. And do I love getting orange juice and or cranberry juice out of the little machine that probably is full of mold into those little Dixie cups? Do I love it? Do I love the little salsa picante packets they give you with your eggs every morning? I think I do. Do I love basic cable? Do I love having Wi-Fi that's like not the best, so I'm kind of forced to just watch C-SPAN on basic cable, questioning my life and why I'm alone in a living room, a hotel room in Riverton, Wyoming? Do I love that? No. I'm going to say I don't love that.
No one does.
I think we should stop glorifying CRM in such a way, because sometimes it is shitty.
Most of the time, I would say it's probably shitty.
And we talk about this, Connor, a lot. We don't want to gatekeep at all for anthropology. We don't. However, if you do not, like we talked with Vinny last week, if you're not willing to put in that like amount of mental effort to get through all that graduate school to become Vinny's a specific case where the kid's a genius doing genetic stuff for like whatever he's doing. But like, if you're not willing to pull that work in, you're going to be doing CRM. And not that that's a bad thing. Like Angela said, Angela Perry, Dr. Perry, a couple episodes, I think episode 100.
Yeah.
She has PhD. She went through all of academia, loves CRM. That's what she does now. And it's not like the Burger King to like McDonald's being like, the academia. Because I mean, I personally think McDonald's a little better than Burger King. What can you do?
Oh, get out of here. What do you use?
The Kurger Bang, dude, their stuff is disgusting.
Yeah, but they have the spiciest meme page. Come on. Look it up on the Instagram.
I still haven't figured out the Kurger Bang, but it is interesting to see the memes. It is a place, guys. Check out the Kurger Bang on Instagram. A friend sent it to me, and I question her sanity.
We do not endorse anything that is said in the Kurger Bang. But there is no
the celebrated pride.
Doc Monalds. I don't know what's the McDonald's.
There was one after the Will Smith thing with him wearing a Burger King crown. So part of the page is they Photoshop a Burger King crown onto people, and it was Will Smith saying, "Keep my wife's name off my McNuggets." And it makes no sense. But do I love living in a hotel and the only food options are like a Safeway with like vegetables that are very questionably fresh to eat because it's in the middle of a landlocked state in the desert?
Where nothing's growing. Ain't nothing growing around there.
Yeah. Am I trying to eat like make your own salad? I don't know. Do it. Maybe I'll swing by a Burger King and eat it and then feel immediately sick afterwards. Yes. There's other options, but
it's not pretty though. I mean, like, I don't think academia is pretty, and we've highlighted that tons of times, like how bad and like awful it can be. And it's not like you one route, you get to choose. Like you can go back and forth, like Angela has done. A lot of people have gone and done CRM for a couple years, and then they're like, yeah, I had too many eggs. Too many Hampton Inn eggs that it's really ruining my gut. I got to get a PhD.
Right. And like when you get a higher degree, you can, yes, probably be more management. You can do, like, you're a manager, I'm a man, like I was a manager, like you can do an office job and that's not so bad. But then in an office job, you're sitting in one spot where Connor, there's no sun half the year. So he's just like, And then in Georgia, I was just roasting and I saw a cockroach run across my very clean house, run across my computer desk. And I was like, I'm going to burn my house down. There's no other option. I'm leaving. So I bought a bus and quit my job. But
he didn't commit arson. He thought about it.
It would have been self-arson, self-immolation.
Oh my gosh.
But not to say that. What's up? Oh, just me, the monk from.
Yeah, I was thinking the monk thing. Yeah, that's.
Every time I see a cockroach, I think that man's life is better than mine. But I'm so sorry, guys. Yes, but so to all that aside, I'm not saying that CRM is like not glorious. There are aspects to it that are great, and I'm not saying like you should be an academic. Like, what am I trying to say here? I'm not saying that like it's a prison sentence to do CRM versus academia. It's not. There's some CRM that's amazing. However, if you're going into anthropology because you like find it interesting, but you're not willing to like go further into graduate school, maybe you can't afford it yet. Fine, do CRM. Like, put your work in. If you're not willing to like get to that management stuff and you just want a job, you're going to be doing archaeological grunt work, which is not pretty.
No.
Some places it is. You have an amazing crew. It's a great time. Laura Candon had that experience. We should get her on to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Highlight some of because she talks about those experiences like they were some of the best years of her life.
Like camping with a bunch of hippies in the woods of Mississippi. Yeah, it was like awesome. Elena Haverlook, she like loves her crew that she works with. She loves her job. Amelia, what's her last name?
Dahl.
Amelia Dahl seems to love her job. She does like office work and field work.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some people that I know who are just like, I can't do this, and they quit and they do something else because you are living in a hotel. Especially like when I worked with Swicca, it was people I'd never met before, but I knew them through people, and like we weren't like we didn't go way back, like we weren't like friends forever. So it was like a fun, you're with your friends in a hotel every night drinking. It became that after a while, but then after that, Swicca's like, hey, I need you at this other project tomorrow, and I had to drive to the other side of Wyoming and watch construction for 12 hours a day while they dug their gravel and talk into a walkie-talkie and be like, yeah, nothing. And like then go back to an apartment where they didn't put me in a hotel. They had me in an apartment with a roommate who just didn't talk to me, which is fine because I was tired. But like, I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I don't.
Well, and then at field school, you're not exposed to any part of that. Field school, you're kind of like given this like glamorous or not glamorous. I know that there's field school out there that put you through the ringer and you suffer and you.
Field school looks like the opening scene of Jurassic Park where they're at like that nice camp with the trailer and it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Exactly. And you camaraderie, you build friendships, blah, 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 blah. But after that, it's worth testing the waters of CRM and putting your toe in and being like going on a project before you do the full commit, I would say.
Yes. And sometimes you'll drive by the highway, drive down the road, and you'll see a construction crew on the side of the road. And you're like, man, it's hot. Those poor bastards. One of them, more likely than not, is a geologist or an archaeologist out there overseeing what's being dug. And like, that. Like sometimes like the middle of Nashville, Tennessee, middle of summer, just so hot, so humid. And like, you're just out there in a wet clay hole looking for, and Nashville has tons of material. So it's like, you have to then halt construction. Then they hate you because of the supply chain right now. It's just like, I'm dreading doing some work later this summer that I'll be doing, but like,
yeah, because you're going to a place where it's northwestern Colorado, where it gets up to 100+ degrees, and the place is used as like a lithic landscape. Everyone lived everywhere. There's stuff everywhere, and you're out there trying to document stuff so people are complying with the laws, but you're also impeding construction progress, like you're saying. So you're in this weird place where you're like sunburnt, dying, overheated, getting yelled at by a construction company, but you're also finding the cool stuff.
Yeah. Or the construction people, after 2 weeks, you get to know them because you're there every day. Then you get close enough where they're willing to tell you, yeah, me and my friends came in here and picked this area clean of arrowheads, and I have them at my house. You want to see them? Not realizing that is one, a federal crime, and two, the point of me being there is to look for that stuff. And like without that, I'm not going to be able to tell what's there. And like if we dig through something, yes, but it's just going to be a campfire. I don't know if it's going to be a Shoshone campfire versus a Crow or a like early archaic site. So yeah, there's that. And then you're wondering like, why do my tax dollars go to this? Because like that is the stupidest job when you're not finding anything. But it's also a worthwhile job because you're preserving indigenous heritage. But it's more so, as Aaron Dieterwolf pointed out to me, like, are we saving indigenous heritage or are we just doing environmental compliance because it's federally required? And that's really all CRM boils down to sometimes. And like the glory is gone.
Yeah. And it's like a philosophical debate that you will have every day while you're sitting there watching someone do like 10 centimeters of a bulldozer moving. I was on a project that was putting in fiber optic cable. So basically the machine was cutting into the ground and then laying cable afterwards, and it just broke every 5 minutes. Every 10 minutes, thing broke. And you're sitting there like, I am not going to find anything underneath that. And then all these thoughts come into your head, all these philosophical questions like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I getting paid for this? What is the meaning of everything? And it is brutal.
And on that note, I couldn't have said it better myself, Connor, to be honest. Let's talk about the good stuff though next session, because I mean there's more bad than good to me, and there's more good than bad in a lot of ways. So what I just said was pointless. Next session.
Welcome back to episode 115 of A Life in Ruins podcast. This episode is off the rails because Carlton isn't here to hang out with us.
Edit out my burp.
No, keep it in.
Sorry.
We do want to highlight some good aspects of it because I've been on some projects that I've really enjoyed. David has too. We want to give you both sides. We want to be the good cop, bad cop kind of thing. And David, you were mentioning in the interim that there's some some things in Kentucky that you've done and some jobs for SWCA that you actually enjoyed parts of.
Yeah. So yeah, when I worked for a bigger company in Wyoming, it was based out of Colorado. I went out with a crew. The guy had gotten his degree at Wyoming. He was a master's graduate. He was older. He was in the kid's 40s. Real cool dude. I worked with another guy, Ben Perlmutter. He was friends with Spencer. He's a cool guy, right?
Yeah.
So another archaeological Jew, which was, I learned, in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming. There was just two of us. Yeah, like some of those digs were like, there was one guy on our crew that was like odd. And even if he's listening to this, I think he'll admit to himself like he's a little odd. But he was odd. But the other guys got along with. There's another guy named Brady, I think, who is a University of Wyoming student now.
He was actually, he went on with me up to and did my field work in the Winds, and then was at LaPrel and is a master's student right now. Shout out Brady, you the man.
That's right. Okay, yeah. So I remember Brady being like going back into school. Yeah. Worked with them, hanging out at a hotel in, I think it was Riverton, Wyoming, and you're like, after work, we would just go get beer, hang out in the parking lot, which I didn't realize you could just do. You could just post up in the parking lot with camping shit. You probably can't. Hang out.
It's called loitering.
But we were paying to be there so we could hang out outside.
Oh, it was at the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we would hang out and just drink. They taught me how to like this one guy taught me how to like pee into like the truck with the wheel well without it looking like you're peeing. If you really had to go, because you had to get your car key to go back inside, to go back to the room and stuff. And the lobby didn't have a bathroom, and he'd put his like hand up to his face, like he was like searching the horizon, but he was really just peeing. It was like just funny stuff, which I don't know if that's like sexual misconduct. I don't think it is. There's no one around. It was just us. So, but like it was just funny to me. Yeah, you're just hanging out and drinking, but everyone has an anthropology degree or a geology degree. It's mostly anthropologists. So you all have like minds. We talked about different ways, and like I was still in grad school at this time, so they were picking my brain about stuff and like, oh, he's so young, he didn't know that, and like, but then I was like pushing back on some stuff, and I was like, no, I really think sediment moves this way, and this is why this site's stupid. And then they were like, and like we would like get into like and it was like fun because it's like you're doing like your theory is getting put into practice, I guess is the way to explain it. And
for sure.
A guy who worked construction where we were working, like the pipeline, came by and he was asking us like, why do I will say this and we don't have to bleep it out. He said to me, talking to me and the other guys, and this is a valid concern, why the fuck do I have to halt my construction for 3 days for a fucking arrowhead? And like he was said it in a very like intense tone like that, but he legitimately meant like why? Because he just doesn't. They don't tell him why. He just knows he has to. And my field chief handed him a little card that was like his spiel of saying like what, you know, the environmental or the EPA says, what the National Register of Historic Places says, and like why we have to do that. And we explained to him like, you know, it could be a big site. It could lead to something. It's indigenous heritage. We need to preserve it. And the guy was like, okay, but he was just like, I just don't understand like why FEMA has to come in and like tell me like do that. And he was like, he had a Trump thing on his like car and stuff like that. So not to say that's like makes him a bad person anyway. It's just like I can tell where he's like what side of the aisle he's coming from with these questions. And like they were good questions and I like wanted to have an answer. I didn't necessarily have the full one, but my boss gave him the full answer and it was like, okay. And we kind of came to like an agreement in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming in a hotel parking lot, drunk. It was like pretty cool. And another guy came in and talked about like elk hunting because he would come in with his rifle every day. He also made a very racist comment against, it was very anti-Semitic with me and Ben sitting right there. And we were like, oh, well, have a good day, man.
Okay, bye.
You see some of that out west. Also had a big political sticker on his, we won't say which one it was, but had it on his car.
It rhymes with Bonald Rump.
But that's not to say that's where his anti-Semitism came from. But
no.
It's just like, and I don't even think he meant it directly. It was just a very like, ooh, did he really just say that to me? But that's the thing. I'm a white passing minority, so it's just like, and I'm white. I would call myself. That's a whole other topic. But yes.
So you can like, no, I was gonna say you put this into practice. So like we talk about finding stuff, we talk about like sediments, all that stuff, but you also talk about public archaeology, which is what you were doing on the second part of that, where you're engaging with someone who's like a stakeholder and having a conversation with them and telling them why this is important and why we do this. Like those are both elements that we're taught.
Yes, exactly. And that first day, that was my first day on the job, like after we had worked and gone out there. And the guy, my crew chief was like, so yeah, how'd you like it, man? Before we went to bed in different rooms. But he was like, what'd you like about it? And I was like, nah, man, it's like cool. Like this is neat. Like I got to see my boss like on the first day immediately describe why I'm here. Like it was kind of cool in a teachable moment. And then other times like we would go to lunch because you get an hour lunch break. And but sometimes we just staggered it and ate snacks throughout the day. But you get the gas station runs in the morning where you're like, oh, they make purple Mountain Dew now. I guess we'll try that. And it's just like, you just feel sick while you're digging a hole. But it's
mixed with like the Quickie Mart or whatever. What was the ones that I would eat? Oh my god,
dude, you would eat come and go burritos every day.
Yeah, this was like I was a grad student, so you can excuse that, but I had the money to not do that. I just did that because I'm a piece of shit, and I will admit to that.
But yeah, it's like stuff like that. Like you're at a lot of gas stations, and like you eat a lot of beef jerky and sunflower seeds because you want to keep, and like you have to do a lot of training where it's like heat stroke, rattlesnakes, gun violence,
holes
lots
in
of
the ground. Yeah,
holes in the ground. Yeah, like things you have to be out there for, and like water and hydration is a legit concern, and like sunscreen and stuff. Like you got to wear safety vests, you got to wear sunscreen, you got to wear your helmet. That was fun, but like little hole in the wall restaurants in the middle of nowhere. Like I remember this one place, it was this mom and pop place, and like their son, I guess their son had Down syndrome, and he was like in his 40s or 50s, and like came to the table and just like posted up and ate lunch with us, and we were like, "What's up, dude?" And like we just like eating like just having fun, and like he was trying to fist bump us like the whole. It was just fun, like making this guy's day.
And you wouldn't actually like go out to that spot without being there for archaeology too. So you do get to explore like interesting areas that you would like not go to. Like I'm not going to go to. I'm trying to think where I wouldn't go to Walden, Colorado, hang out there. Like that's so you do get to see some really interesting places too and meet interesting people and
culture.
Yeah.
Like being on the res, I'd never been there, and I could see like the poverty. Like I'd never like. I was like, damn. And like on Fridays when like it was specific day of the month when like the checks come, like it is a thing where like the liquor stores, it's like packed. And I was like, wow, okay. Like I've heard this, but I never saw it firsthand. And like I grew up in the East Coast. So I was like, It's just a vastly different world. And I was like, man.
Or you get like shift workers, people who work in like the oil fields, and they all come off at the same time.
Those are like living pirates. Like haggard people coming into port. They're like, I need a beer. They come and sit.
I've been at sea for 14 days.
Literally, though, at these oil fields for like weeks on end, making like $100,000 a day because it's a dangerous job.
Doing meth and steroids.
A lot of meth out there. But how about your CRM?
So we also get to do cool research projects as part of CRM. So I've mentioned this before. My company did a project down in Durango, Colorado, where they were rerouting a highway, Highway 550. So they're rerouting this whole highway. It's up on top of a mesa overlooking a river. And if you've been to anywhere in the West, you know that there's going to either be dead humans, there's going to be arrowheads, there's going to be pit houses, there's going to be everything. These like escarpments and mesas that hang around water sources are just chock full of everything you want to find archaeological. People have been living there for like a long periods of time. And because they were moving the highway and we're going to disturb the ground, we got to go out beforehand and excavate and identify really, really cool archaeology, like archaeology that you want to do as part of your field school, or archaeology that you see maybe even we even filmed something. So we were on PBS talking about this archaeology. Like there was really cool, adobe pit houses where you can see like the wing walls, different like storage areas, all of the pottery you would want to see ever, all of the sandstone metates, monos, effigies. So you do get to go and see these cool projects and go to cool places and see things. And also as part of this project, we got to work directly with the Mountain Ute reservation. So we had Mountain Ute students come out there and we taught them archaeological methods, had them help us dig, and actually had some of those workers hang out with us and work for us for the whole summer. So this is one of those other things where you hear about this really cool archaeology, but you actually get to do it. Mm-hmm. You also hear about engaging and talking with stakeholders and working with tribes, working with different people who are interested in, and you get to put that into practice as well. So,
and that's like worthwhile work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's cool.
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, you feel good and you feel excited to do that. And as part of that, I got to drive a drone. They make me small. Yeah, they make me small like Miss Frizzle, and I was like on top of that, like piloting it. But I got to operate a drone and create 3D models of these pit houses and do really cool technology stuff. We also found a lot of human remains that were almost immediately repatriated and reburied as part of this process. So it's just like it really is a crapshoot. You'll have 30 projects in a year that suck and everything's miserable, and you're walking transmission lines, you're walking pipelines, you're walking just walking. And you're digging, or you're in the East Coast and you're digging holes every 5 meters or something
through thick roots, poison ivy, poison oak, boars, chiggers, ticks. I have Rocky Mountain. You dig through the boars, yeah. And you're like, why the f*** did DeSoto release all of these pigs? Cancels Spain. Fun fact, the Spanish released a lot of pigs in the Southeast so that when they came back from their expeditions, they had food. And now we got a big-ass hog problem down there, boy.
Explains a lot about the South.
It does. So another thing, too, that was like great with CRM was I took this job reluctantly because I needed a job. But knowing Shane, he like saw someone say, hey, we need like a really experienced field assistant. I think my job was a tech, but I was the PI's assistant is what I was on paper. Glorified shovel bum. So, but yeah, they needed someone who could do bones and someone who was like, work with high profile stuff between like the Army Corps and all that. So that Shane was like, you need David. No, I'm not dusting my shoulders off in any way here, but
Did you just was that a Schitt's Creek reference? Ew, David.
Ew, David.
Ew, David.
Yeah. So, and this kind of plays into it because I went to this site in Harlan, Kentucky, and if you're not sure what Harlan, Kentucky is, that's like where, like, there's songs about it, like in the 1920s, about like unions and like coal miners and stuff like that. That's like the heart of coal country, rural, like where there's actual inbred people, and like it was a thing in the town, and like not in Harlan itself, but around that area. And like it was up in the mountains, dude. And like I was just like, oh, and there was a guy from Long Island that was there, so I was like, hey, I'm a little cool. And the guy that I ended up working with at New South, I love the guy to death. Like I would get a beer with him anytime I see him. Great guy. Another person from New South worked there. She was an bioarchaeologist. It's like she did with the remains and stuff. She worked in Florida, taught, and she was contracted out, worked there. And then we also worked with the Army Corps, it was the Army Corps' land. The Army Corps built railroad there in the 1910s or 1920s or something like that. When was the flu?
I think it was like the 1910s, like early
1910s. So it was then. They were building it then because a lot of the people died whatever year the Spanish flu was. And like a lot, just poor Irish immigrant graves with like whiskey bottles in them. And that was it. And like a doll or two. And like, it was just cool to see that aspect of like, just essentially like train track fodder just being thrown into the dirt because they didn't have anywhere else to send them. But the cemetery was getting eroded out by the river or the river was a USAID controlled river and it was eroding out. So we had to go dig it out. But working with the Corps, this guy I found out had worked on the trial for Saddam Hussein. He did all the mass grave excavations in Iraq, and like dug all that out, testified against Saddam Hussein using archaeology, being like, yeah, we dug out all these graves and there's just, you can see where the bullet shot these children in the back of the head, and like you can see their clothing and like artifact A, B, and C as if it was evidence. And like Saddam was now hanged on public television. And that's why people are like, I can't believe there's like gratuitous violence in these shows. And like, I was 13 and saw Saddam hanged on live TV. I think I can handle it.
Yeah.
But like anyway, just a cool experience. And like, they were from St. Louis, so they were like obviously upper class people, like working for the Corps. The guy from New York was like a trade worker, but he was really good with backhoes and stuff, and he came in. But the guys that worked the site that were like from Kentucky, because a funeral home was going to repatriate all these graves, couldn't understand a word the guy said. And he was like, hey, man, you going both going down, going down. And I was like, yeah. And then at one point, dude, this is one of the scariest things about like how diverse America is. The guy like rolled his window down and he looked like the physical embodiment of Foghorn Leghorn. I can't describe it. / Dave Thomas from KFC. You know, Dave Thomas is Wendy's. Who's Colonel Sanders? There you go. He rolls the windows down. I do declare. And he literally says shit like that. He rolls the window down as I'm moving buckets up the hill. And he goes, son, do you vote for Trump? Just deer in the headlights. And I like have gauges and have tattoos. So like clearly I probably vote One Direction. And he was just like, just looked at it. And I was like, probably a 5-second pause. And I like didn't want to say who I voted for. So I was like, and then he goes, you vote for Hillary? And I was like, neither. And he goes, oh, good man. And then rolled the window back up. And I was like, oh, I could have been shot. Like, it just felt so weird. But I judged, and I was like, these people are like scary and weird and hill people. They made us moonshine at the end of it, and get like illegal moonshine and gave it to, and I didn't know it was illegal, but the field guy, allegedly, the guy from the Army Corps was like, hey, David, just so you know, 1, don't go to town and meet young women because you're their ticket out of here. And I was like, that's a little rough. And he's like, yeah, but it's the truth. And then also I wouldn't drink this man's moonshine without the knowledge of knowing that he made this in his bathtub. And I was like, that makes it kind of better. And he's like, I didn't say that, but like winked at me as he said. So I was like, it was
yeah. So you CRM people out there are interested in doing CRM. You could have these experiences. You could be yelled across the site by Foghorn Leghorn. You could fly a drone over really cool pit houses. You could operate it yourself if you get really small and turn in like Miss Frizzle does. You could do all these things. Just be aware
that it's a lot of sweat, a lot of sunscreen, a lot of possible rattlesnake bites, a lot of poison ivy, and a lot of nights in a hotel room being like, and we'll end it there.
Thank you so much for listening to us. Rate and review the podcast. We don't recommend you read anything because reading's dumb. Don't follow us on social media. Don't send us reviews. We hate you. We love you. I don't know. David probably has a better pitch for that.
You can catch me at Third Coast Comedy Club next Monday at... I'm just kidding. That's all I got, dude. Please rate and review the podcast. Do the whole thing. Guys, Chris Webster and... what's Rachel's last name? Roden. Yeah. Rachel Roden. I keep on saying Rachel Webster, but that makes Rachel Webster. It just rocks my world. Chris Roden. Chris Webster and Rachel Roden are wonderful people who edit each one of these episodes. They run the podcast network. We do suggest you watch some and listen to some other podcasts on the network. Join in for the live shows because they are great people. I hit up Chris the other day out of the blue and was like, hey, I need help with my internet. And he was like, got you, fam. And we just like checked. Great guy. So just like
the Archaeology show, CRM Arc is the other, another one, The Dirt. Check all the ones out. Just do it. Listen to us, support us, become a member of the APN, send us money.
If you are a single woman or a single man looking for a partner, if you rate and review the podcast, I will find you one. So rate and review the podcast. I'm not saying it's going to be me. If you are a young person who enjoys podcasts, who wants to rate and review the podcast, I would implore that you do so. If you rate and review the podcast, I will highlight you on the Life Nerds podcast page. It's about all I can offer without getting yelled at by the other two.
And with that, we are out.
Thanks for listening to A Life in Ruins podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Life in Ruins Podcast, and you can also email us at alifeinruinspodcast@gmail.com.
And remember, make sure to bring your archaeologists in from the cold and feed them beer.
Connor, do you have a shitty joke?
Shitty joke time!
Wait, we really got to stop saying shitty because they're going to get edited. Well, we've said it so much, he's probably given up on editing it anyway, so sorry, Chris. Or Rachel.
Crappy joke time, crappy joke time, crappy joke time. Okay, so a friend asked me to play the part of Brutus in an upcoming play about Julius Caesar. Looked at him and I was like, I'd take a stab at it.
Nice. That's some old Republic humor. I know. Is it Empire then? That sound plays as Connor's cat is licking its asshole in the corner. All right. And with that, we're out.
This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV traveling the United States, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, DigTech LLC, Cultural Media, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Chris Webster.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.